Over the weekend, Senator Elizabeth Warren walked back her Medicare for All plan, announcing that she's not going to fully launch a single-payer health care system until her third year in office. Very different than the Senator Bernie Sanders Medicare for All plan, which until recently she had been on board with.
Progressive YouTuber Peter Coffin, who threw his support behind Bernie Sanders earlier this year, compared Warren's new proposal to that of Pete Buttigieg and reiterated why Sanders should be the nominee.
Like, this campaign, the Bernie Sanders campaign, is not going to be easy. But relatively speaking, as far as all of the changes in society we have to do, we have to create a total systemic change if we want a fair world, because we don't live in one. I don't like the Democrats, but I want Bernie Sanders to win.
And he joins us now via Skype to expand on this. Great to have you, Peter.
Thanks for having me.
So just talk a little bit more about your sort of reaction to Warren's Medicare for All transition plan, which has her basically passing a public option first and then theoretically passing a Medicare for All plan in year 3, which of course would be nearly impossible, if not completely impossible. Did it surprise you, her move in this direction?
It surprised me that it was this early. I had considered that it might happen either during like midway through the actual voting in the primary, or if she had won, perhaps in the general. I really honestly didn't think that it would be something she would do long, like we're like 80, 90 days ahead of Iowa. And, she's sort of built a brand around Medicare for All and being able to pay for it, while the other option hasn't really put forward that type of a thing. And I think that it's sort of, it feels weird that it's this early.
Mm-hmm.
So, Peter, one of the things we try very hard to do on this show is kind of bridge the gap between Washington and then kind of the internet nexus. Now, you're one of the original people that found themselves kind of, as a satirist on YouTube. What is it? Take us through how you've watched the platform evolve from a political level. I find it very interesting.
Well, I started off on YouTube actually way back in 2006.
Wow.
I had within the first year of it existing, I did sketch comedy, I did song parodies, and I mean there was always a sort of a political bent, but I wouldn't have called myself an actual leftist. I would say I was probably more along the lines of a liberal, et cetera, et cetera. And what we've basically seen, I would say in the last few years, has really been the best era of political YouTube for someone like myself. I have, over the years, evolved. In 2008, I saw Michael Moore's Sicko. That got me on to single-payer healthcare. Then the Democrats sort of let us down in 2010. That set me on a path. And really, the skepticism that YouTube sort of built a reputation for platforming, not necessarily the best stuff in the world, I think has finally sort of started to mature into an actual healthy sort of means to criticize establishment sources and establishment power in a way that is actually poignant nowadays. It's not necessarily that they've made it easy for us. There's certainly been issues recently about this sort of weird change towards child-friendly content, or labeling your content not child-friendly when it's not really either. Or like when you're making political content, it's really like almost an irrelevant thing. But
right.
Aside from those types of platform troubles like that, it's, I feel, become a much more mature platform for criticism if you go looking for it anyway. I mean, if you go looking for the opposite, you'll find it as well. But
Yeah. So, Peter, one of the things that I've really been made aware of in exploring the YouTube space is just how narrow an audience that the mainstream media is really pitching to, and how many more people there are out there looking for independent voices like yours who are willing to call out BS from power, whether it comes from the left or from the right.
Well, I mean, the thing is, they've curated a very specific audience. It's not just that people don't open their eyes. It's that they've intentionally, like, you have your Fox News is curated a very conservative version of it. You have your MSNBC with the liberals. You have your CNN, who's really spent a lot of time sort of branded themselves as being in the know. You get the breaking news. You get all, like, if you keep up with them, you are obviously in the know. they curate specific audiences and they act as though that's the entirety of America. The big problem with that is, of course, it's not. Like, a lot of us can see contradictions when there's something being said about, like, let's say, like with Pete Buttigieg saying that he would be okay with sending troops to Mexico. I think that there's probably people that are okay with that, but there's also a lot of people who would hear that and go, wait, hold on. And the reason why I think that we have such a healthy skepticism sort of brewing on, especially on the left, but again, it's something that's holding both sides of this media conglomerate, or I'm sorry, media complex accountable, is that there are more than a few people who are willing to say, hey, I'm going to go to people. I'm going to get funded by the people who watch me. I'm not going to take money from some big source. I'm not going, there's a lot of different ways of setting up the back end on things. And it keeps people free to go, oh, that doesn't sound right.
Mm-hmm. So one of the most interesting things I think I've seen is really how much of a contrast it all comes down to in terms of long form content. Like so many of the people that we talk to on this show who are kind of steeped in Washington, they're only used to being able to talk. I mean, Crystal and I have both been in cable. It's like you get to talk for 2 minutes, like max, right? You don't really get to make any real points. And it's just like there is a pretty decent of the segment of the population which is like, well, hold on a second. I want to hear what you actually have to say. I mean, some of your own videos, I mean, how long are they? 20 minutes, 30 minutes? I mean, people watch the whole thing,
longest,
right?
Yeah, my longest is actually 52.
Right.
I mean, people, if you talk about something that they care about and you engage in it in a manner that's actually like interesting and you care about it and you're willing to sort of address concerns, like I'll tweet about something a lot before I actually make a video about it to see what kind of pushback I'm going to get, gauge what people consider important about the issue, and then sort of form my argument around that. Because I think that it's important that if you have a point, that you actually engage people on a level where you don't just automatically consider everybody stupid. I think that's something that is a big problem with how a lot of these larger outlets work. They sort of curate an audience that they consider not to be smart and also sort of intentionally try to keep them from being quote unquote smart. And we sort of, I mean, it's not necessarily that I'm saying, hey, everybody's smarter on the internet, because that's definitely not true. But we care, I think, in a manner that engages people. I don't know that it's something that, you're going to find on every single channel, of course. But I think that your various, the video essay content, it really shows a deep level of commitment, I think, to what actually matters to people generally,
right.
At least with people that I watch anyhow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that I very much noticed moving from cable news into YouTube is, cable news is like on as background noise. People are half paying attention. They can sort of like understand one point. But when people show up to watch you, they really show up to watch you, to listen, to hear what you have to say, to consider your points, etc. And so that level of sort of focus has been one of the things that I've really enjoyed being on the platform. Peter, it's so great to talk to you. So great to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Great to see you, Peter.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
And we'll have more Rising after this.